Hey, welcome everybody to our default StreamYard overlay and default background music. This is On the Hash, which is me and my bro. We're the Cover 2 Bros. That's the name we're using, yes. And this is going to be our first episode of doing college football commentary.
Should we introduce ourselves?
I am Mike Hunky, your co-host.
And I am Pick Saban, your other co-host.
Yes, the Cover 2 Bros on the Hash is our college football commentary podcast. All right, let's turn this default royalty-free music off.
And these names totally will not change every single episode.
I'm a man. I'm 40. My name's Mike Hunky. Anyway, so we are expert armchair quarterbacks, and we are passionate about football and college football in particular. And this is just something we just decided to start doing for fun. You know, if people watch it and people like it, so be it. What it do.
And the viewers they'll find out very quickly who knows a lot more about football between the two of us.
I'm a man. I'm 40. I mean,
okay,
what's
all right?
What is there?
I was going to follow us the entire stream, I guess.
But anyway, we're two brothers passionate about football. We've just always loved it our entire lives, and nowadays there's no excuse. As much as we are yappers and armchair quarterbacks, there's no excuse for us not to just do some commentary out there, just have fun with it. Okay.
Yep.
So, anyone watching out there, hope you guys enjoy it, and our opinions are just objectively correct. So whatever you hear, don't listen to anybody else. This is it. This is it.
We'll always be right. We'll never, ever, ever be wrong. I promise.
But anyway, so our first topic.
Everybody's having a wonderful day.
Yes, Thursdays. They're so great.
Wonderful. I mean, day before Friday. It's better than a Wednesday or a Tuesday or a Monday, especially.
Tuesday is definitely the worst day of the week. Monday, I think Monday's a flip of a coin, because it's like Monday you could either come in like depressed, here we go again, or you can have like a renewed sense of purpose and motivation, like, all right, it's a new week, it's time to go. But then Tuesday rolls around, and Tuesday is just the reminder that your life sucks.
Tuesday is the reality of the week.
Tuesday is the reality check.
Yeah,
it's the worst day.
Except for Thursdays, I don't have class on Tuesdays, so
right. This kid goes to Georgia Tech.
Yeah. It's a complicated situation, though, is when we talk about fan bases and who I'm a fan of. So
divided household.
It was not divided. I am a fan of both. So
he's a split personality.
Yeah.
Fan.
So I'm only a fan of Tech, though, because I go there. So, but I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably aware of Tech's ability to move the football.
They be moving it, bro. But
in the wrong direction.
With this being said, if you didn't already figure it out by our accents by now, we are from Georgia, and we'll put it out there. Just disclaimer: we are Georgia fans, lifetime Georgia Bulldog fans, ever since the Mark Richt era and the pain that came with that. He's a great guy, great coach, one of the best coaches the program ever had. But all that aside, regardless of the fandom, this is not a Georgia-specific commentary or podcast. It's not SEC-specific. We're going to be as broad and non-biased. Like, we're going to be totally as neutral and non-biased as we possibly can be. So we'll put that out there. And if you believe us,
And I will promise that if Georgia is ever highly rated, it's just because I think most people can agree they are a great team. So it's like,
we'll
try to back it up with the reasoning that we can. So
like when we pick our favorite top best teams, you'll agree. So So,
and even if you don't agree, that means you're wrong. We're
you're
right.
objectively wrong. We already told you we're objectively right. All right, so I guess that's enough with the introductions of the cover two bros. So we're gonna start on our actual talking about college football now. Our first topic is gonna be the state of the sport. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need to make an overlay for that. We need to learn how to edit videos and visuals.
I mean, it's first time.
But
We'll get there. Well, it's an experiment so far. So
yeah.
I don't
So
is it creepy when I like stare down the webcam? Should I like not do that?
we'll be right back, folks, after these messages. Anyway, so I guess
as you can tell, we're not trying. Sorry to cut you off, but as you can tell, I don't think we're going to try and take this too insanely seriously. I think our points will be serious for the most part, but we're just a couple of dudes, just talking
a couple
about
of bros. Cover two bros.
Okay,
yeah, we're
edit that out.
we're not taking this stuff like overly seriously. Like I said, we're just doing this for fun because this is something we've always kind of wanted to do. It wherever it goes, it just goes there. But yeah, I mean, we are going to give serious opinions and commentary on like the world of college football as much as possible.
Okay,
so
state of the sport. Where do we start with that?
I guess today, for the state of the sport segment, we'll talk about the playoff expansion.
Okay.
Because it's never been done before. So I guess pros and cons of like the state of things with the playoff. So, after how long did it take? Almost 10 years. They finally decided to expand the playoff.
To
I don't
12 teams, however like effective that's going to be. We'll see. But
I'm glad. It's kind of weird, but I'm also glad that when they finally did decide to expand it, they kind of pushed it as like as much as they could to like the 12 team, because everybody expected them to go from like 4 to 6 to 8, and all that crap. So
they're probably 12 is probably as high as they're going, though. I don't see them going to 16 at any point in the future, although I think like most playoffs are usually 16. But I guess it's just too many games out of the year, So I mean, I guess like teams that are they're not conference, but they're just at large, and they're within the top, like between 5 and 12 or 5 and 11. I guess group of 5 is 12, but they're playing like what to win a national championship. They're playing 16 games. So
yeah, I mean, I think we have to remember that this is still college football, and these are still students, student athletes with schedules, and the colleges have schedules to keep, and I mean, yeah, for all the real men out there, we know there's nothing more important in life than college football. Like that's just reality, But we still have to remember that it's college football that has its limitations. Like it's, it's more fun, I guess, to us and for most college football fans than like pro football. It's more interesting. There's just more hype behind it because you get just there's just more culture to it, I guess. But yeah, they probably won't go to a full on 16 playoff, but I think the 12 team layout is pretty optimal though, because it's like now you get the top 10 because like that's just symmetrically pleasing. Just it's qualitatively pleasing. You get the top 10 plus two at large outside the top 10. So it's like, what more do you need than that?
The only problem is that it's the top 4 are like conference champions. So it's like you can get like a 10-2 or a 9-3 conference champion in the top 4. So
yeah, it's not perfect, of course, as far as records go. And, depending on the conference and the schedule, Yeah, a team might, get in there 10-2 and have played a really weak schedule with other teams like maybe undefeated or one loss below them that aren't in like the power four, I guess is what it is now.
It's sort of like, because I think about it, it's like obviously with the NFL, you can have a 9-7 team go in there, but at the end of the day, they're still all NFL
They're all
teams. Like they're all
pros, right?
professional players. They're if they made it to the playoffs, it's because they're good. They're still good. They fixed and they're good. Like college team, it's like if a team's 9-3 compared to an undefeated, that can be a huge, just a massive schism there in skill and ability and recruiting and all that. I mean, you'd look at like, you know, Michigan with like they went undefeated that year, or I think they had one loss when they went up against Georgia in the playoffs, and it's like because they're a one loss team against a one loss team, and the talent difference was just too big, and it showed in the biggest game. So if you have a 9-3 team going against a undefeated Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, and it's like a 9-3 like ACC team, Florida State or something, and there's a good chance they could get absolutely just clobbered, and it would be in a top 4 playoff game. It would be in a second round playoff game, so you're expecting a good game, but you get that. So that's one of the bigger issues I think with the playoff. But I as a whole, like, I obviously want the optimization because yes, I just think that especially with last year how the playoffs ended with both Florida State and Georgia getting kind of just kicked out when I think they would have been great additions to a playoff season. I think that it's kind of necessary. So and I group of 5 may go in there and get absolutely clobbered, but I think it's just throw them in there, give them a chance.
And that's a good thing to bring up because I'll build off of that by saying, obviously the disparities are much bigger across the board in college football because of, like you said, recruiting and coaching staff and things like that. This isn't the NFL. They're not all pros. The standard is not level. Like there's huge disparities. And with this conference champion top seeds, look, first couple of years of this 12-team bracket, there's going to be some teams getting just absolutely dogged on in the playoffs. There's going to be blowouts in the playoffs. But looking ahead, I will say that the good thing about it is because a lot of people were like, what's the point? We know what the disparities are. Most of these teams are just going to get in there and just get clobbered and never make it, through. It's like, well, yes, at first. But the good thing about this playoff format is that it can disperse. It can kind of equalize the playing field of recruiting because now many more programs are going to have the opportunity to jump in there. So now much more talented, recruits are going to be more willing to go. Top tier talented coaching
Right.
staff are going to be more willing to go to these other programs, these, less than elite programs, and eventually it's going to level it out somewhat. So it's kind of going to take some time before we really see like an even playing field benefit of result. For the first couple of years of this 12-team format, there's going to be certain programs, elite blue blood programs, that are going to run the table, and we
I
just know
think
that right
about
now.
I don't know. I think about the only conference that's going to release. I feel like the conference champions are probably going to take over the playoff for the most part
Yeah, I
for
mean,
these first couple of years, barring the ACC. Probably they're kind of a mess right now. But
I
uh,
don't know, um,
at least, of
because
course, which it'll be talked about later. But obviously, like I still have some faith in Clemson, and obviously Miami looks great so far. They
right,
look like a very
you
good
still
team.
have
So,
elite programs there. I would
but
say Big 12 is the one that has the hardest stake in this playoff, truthfully, but
true.
with Texas and Oklahoma now, SEC ship jumpers, it's like, Big 12, they're in a rut here as far as their conference representation.
Don't worry, Kansas State will take them to the Natty. They'll take the Big 12 to the Natty.
I think that's a very capable program.
Capable
Oh,
program. I don't think this season, but
the first
maybe in
couple
the
of seasons,
future.
it's
I
going to
think it is
be right.
you know,
They're going to be
I
it's going to
think
be very predictable.
I think there's a very good chance that Oklahoma State or Kansas State can be one of the teams that sort of carries the Big 12, and maybe those will be the two big
Yeah.
in the Big 12. But they're not looking too hot this season so far. So
Don't forget about Kansas, though. Kansas has
Kansas,
become
but
more of a
again,
competitive
which
program.
I already forgot who they lost to, but
Yeah, they're not doing so hot this year, but we'll get into all of that. So, I mean, this is probably the best we're going to get out of a playoff format. And like I said, it's going to be predictable blowouts from elite blue blood programs. But the opportunity being there is going to incentivize more widespread recruiting and staffing. And eventually it should, in theory, it should level the playing field, because now these kids, you know, are not just going to be like, oh, well, if I ever want to have a shot at the playoffs, or if I ever want to have a shot at a championship, I got to go to Alabama, or I got to go to Georgia or Ohio State or even Clemson or whatever. It's like, hey, Boise State, for example, hey, they got into the playoffs this year. They got absolutely, clob smacked in the playoffs, but hey, they can get in, you know. So now, players are going to be more willing to go to these colleges and recruit. It's gonna improve things in, as
I
far
think
as
it'll
the
help a little bit.
close. It'll
I
close
think
the
the
gap
disparity
a
will
little
close
bit.
a little bit. I think the gap will close a little bit. I still think that gap's going to be pretty large, but
I mean, at the end of the day, you have certain states that have most of the like top recruits, and they have their favorite programs and their childhood dream
there's the
programs. And I mean,
pipeline.
Boise State's not really, and I'm not like specifically ragging on Boise State. I just use that as an example, like Kansas, Boise State, teams like that. Like they're not really that childhood dream team program. You know what I mean? For most
Well,
kids. So
Kansas, they just have a really really bad history, so they struggle a lot with trying to. But they're doing better now. So um,
it'll help a
I'd
little
say
bit.
something about the playoff that I don't like still that we've talked about. And I think you have a slightly different opinion, is the neutral site games for the semifinal. I think the only neutral site game should be the national championship. I don't think the semis should be neutral. I think if you're able to get that upper spot and be, the better team throughout the season, then I think that like you can I think you should be able to get the home field advantage there, but they're never going to get rid of it, the bowl games,
The bowl
because
games,
that's the
you know.
money. That's the money maker there. Those those companies and all, they all still want their
Yeah,
money, to sponsors and
sponsorships
all.
and the
They sponsor
colleges,
the
and
sponsorships and stuff. So
I mean the bowls are here to stay for now, at least. I mean, I will tie that into what we were just talking about. Is initially my thought was, well, I think neutral site games are better, because it's like, hey, the advantage of the 12th man and home field advantage is taken out. So now we get a more like level playing field, objective, you know, opportunity for both teams. Like neither one is at any kind of like subjective advantage or whatever. But at the same time, talking about what we were just talking about earlier, I'm starting to think I agree with you though, that home field advantage should be an incentive, because you know you take these teams that get in the playoff that really otherwise wouldn't have much of a chance against these big name blue blood elites. It's like, you know what? Give them home field advantage and something interesting might happen. You know what I mean? Like that.
there's that, and I mean, granted, those that the group of five, obviously being the last seed, is never going to get home field advantage, but you know, I still think at the end of the day, just in general for the state of the sport, like the more teams you have, the more incentives you have to be the top spot, the more every game matters. Because that's the other argument against the playoff, is that, okay, well, back in the day, you lose one game, you're hanging off the edge now. You're holding on by your pinky finger. It's
College
like,
football was intense, bro.
so it was intense. It's like you couldn't lose a game. I mean, a field goal could determine your entire season. It halfway through, but you know, I know that's changing, but I still think that having as much incentive for being higher in the playoffs, it can still make everything matter. And I think another thing that people get confused about is that I always hear this, our dad is someone who's big into football as well, but he's all on that train. All games don't matter. It's like, trust me, we're going to be there watching games and screaming and yelling at every single game that we watch, because there's still that pride as a team and as a fan that you want commitment, you want to win, you want
Right.
to be the best team.
You
That's just
want to
how
you
it
want to
goes.
watch.
So,
You just want to watch football at the end of the day. You want to watch
you want to
college
watch football
football.
and
You
you
get
want to
hyped,
watch your team
and
beat
it's
the
the
other. That's how it
matchups.
goes.
You still
Yeah.
got matchups that people want to see.
So, and obviously the playoff games are still gonna, like, they're gonna matter like crazy. When you get there, because it's do or die there. So I mean, you're still gonna have the
Right.
do or die, mindset or system when you get to the playoffs. So, and
And I mean, the conference champions having the top seed spots is also something that makes conference play. It still, keeps it intense and interesting. So,
and being a Georgia fan, with how last season ended, it does kind of let off a little bit, because one not greatest game of our season that we have, and we lose by a field goal, and first game in, you know what, 29 games or something like that
also
we
a
lost.
conference championship
Yeah,
non-regular season
conference
game against
championship, not regular
the
season
GOAT
game
coach
against
and
Nick
GOAT
Saban.
program of all time. But,
So, and we
we're
get,
not going to get into that.
when we get kicked out, and we lost fair and square. Well, not entirely fair and square, but again, not going to go into that. We still should have. We didn't play better.
It wasn't a
Alabama played.
catch.
Look, it wasn't, but Alabama played overall way more disciplined than us that game as well. We had so many penalties, and they barely had a single one. They played just a more disciplined game. Um. Anyways, but we get kicked out of that, and it's like, look at our schedule now. Like, look at Georgia's schedule now. It's going to be hard, and it's just hard for any team to go through and go 2-3 massive I mean, we go to 3 top 10 programs stadiums this season to play them. One of them being one of the national championship contenders right now. So, it's not going to be easy, and losing one game by a field goal isn't a surprise. Losing a couple games by a field goal isn't a surprise. Because if you lose by a field goal against a team like that, that's kind of the expectation in, like, these lines. Like, if you ever see a line where a home team is predicted to win by a field goal, it's just because of home field advantage. Like, okay, you're winning by field goal because Vegas thinks
Right.
it's because of the home field advantage. So you lose by field goal, you could just chalk that up to home field advantage, and then this team can still make it in the playoffs. And I think there's teams that tend to strive in the playoffs. So they struggle. Maybe they'll have a couple bad games in the regular season, but then they kill it in the playoffs. So I mean, I'm going to say, bring it. Georgia's one of those teams. They're 5-1 in the playoffs, but they've had some hiccups during the regular season. So
Yeah, I always felt like the 4-team playoff just felt like a joke to me, honestly. Like, it never felt like a real playoff, because it's like you're going to get the same handful of the same teams getting in that playoff every year. And at the end of the day, it still feels like a BCS type thing, because you lose one game and you're, last on the list for the conversation. And obviously, you know, having a human committee is what makes the difference from a BCS computer determining it, because, you know, the BCS computer, that system, it just went by numbers. Who had the best numbers, who had the best win loss ratio, but it didn't take so much into account, you know, the qualitative, things about football, the what happens on the field, the discipline of the team, home field advantage, um, the quality of opponents. I'm sure that they were able to kind of simulate that mathematically in some way, but it's still, obviously, considering some of the teams that ended up getting into the BCS final during that period, it didn't really take enough of that into consideration. The qualitative aspects of reality beyond the numbers, because the numbers don't tell the whole story, you know. So um the 4-team format it just felt like something to shut people up.
that's pretty
And
much what
then
it was.
it was just the NCAA just setting something up to have to shut people up and just keep doing what they do. But then eventually they realized, hey, maybe this will be a good thing. This might work out. So almost 10 years later, they finally expand it, you know. So now, you know, in situations like we had last year, when there are more playoff worthy teams than there are playoff spots because of a BS half-ass format, now that's not likely to happen, because now it's like you're going to get the top 10 in, if nothing else. Like, you're going to get the
Well,
top 10 programs in.
and also I like the conference championship. I know I was complaining about like a 9-3, but it also takes you don't want to lean too much on human input, because obviously there's some bias there. So if you just are like, okay, well, we'll put
Right.
conference champions in there. It's the 4 biggest conferences, so they're most likely if you're winning your conference and out of the 4 biggest conferences, you're probably one of the 4 best teams. So that I think is a logical argument. So
I would say so.
you know,
But then you have
obviously
things like
with
the 2022 national title game. But
well, you know what?
I take that. Well, you know what? They
You
didn't
know
even
what?
win the Big 12. They didn't even win the Big 12.
Michigan shouldn't have lost. It's all Michigan's fault.
Well, I was talking about TCU, the final between
That's
Georgia
what I'm
and
saying.
TCU.
Michigan lost to TCU in the playoff game. And it's like,
Right. And
don't if you're the Big Ten champ and you're who everybody thought was going to be, a good matchup for Georgia, don't lose to TCU. And then because
TCU was
you look
not.
you look 10 times worse now that TCU's gotten absolutely ran in the championship. It's like, granted, I don't think anybody was touching Georgia that season, but
No, but
I
still, it
also
was.
don't think it wouldn't have been 65-7 against Michigan. But the last time Michigan played Georgia, it also wasn't. I mean, it was 34-3 up until 2 minutes left in the game. So it's not like that was much better. So
I mean,
because Michigan also is just not a good matchup for Georgia.
I was about to say, well,
So
Georgia's a special case in this conversation, but I think in general, it's like, yeah, TCU beat Michigan, and I mean, stuff like that can happen, I guess. But obviously, a team that doesn't win the conference championship isn't going to get that top seed spot now, anyway. So it's
you can't really prevent that though, because well, who would have gotten the top spot that season?
Kansas State.
Yep, the Kansas State would have gotten it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
they
they didn't
probably
have the
wouldn't have done any
win-loss.
better.
They didn't have the win-loss ratio, and TCU was a hype beast that year. So it's like, hey, we gotta. The committee over the past couple of years, near the tapering years of the 4-team format, they did a lot of um appeasement. Like, their choices were based a lot in appeasement, more shutting up of people complaining. And when after last year's playoff, like, considering the situation that happened and how it played out because of the teams that they picked to be in, it's like, yeah, I think it's time. We don't have any more excuses. I think it's time to expand it, because this
It's all
is.
Georgia's fault though. Last year, if we wouldn't have lost, it would have been
I mean,
such an
yeah,
easy
it's
decision. It
all
would have just
Kirby.
been Georgia and
It's Kirby
Florida
Smart's
State.
fault, because
Like,
that was
stop
the
losing to
three-peat.
Nick Saban, bro.
That
Like,
was the
stop,
three-peat year. It's like,
please.
how many
Too late
times are you
now,
going to
though.
lose to Nick Saban before
Just for
you
the love of
win?
God, don't lose to Kalen DeBoer in his first year, please. But
I think that's a conversation for later. But I do not believe a first-year DeBoer is going to beat Kirby Smart's Georgia. I'm sorry, Alabama fans, drink your copium.
I don't
It's
know.
just not going to happen.
No, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to give anybody any fuel to just absolutely dog on me when
It's
if
gonna
it
come down to,
happens. So,
but even if you want to make the
because
argument,
they're
well,
still,
even though it's a new coach, they've still got the same level of talent, that elite roster. It's like,
which I
well,
disagree, but
first of all, yeah, I don't believe that Georgia's roster. I don't believe Alabama's roster is as good. Number one, and number two, when you have a situation where the rosters are even, it comes down to coaching. And guess who's been doing it in the big time way better for longer than DeBoer? So it's like, if it comes down to coaching, it's going to be Kirby, unless he just lays an egg. But anyway, we're not going to get too much into like Georgia specific stuff. But Kirby, it's
we'll
your
talk
fault that the
about
playoff ended up the way it did. Don't lose.
we'll
Just
talk
win.
about Alabama's situation when we go over the game with Wisconsin.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
speaking of that,
I think we pretty much covered everything we were
I
going to
think
talk
I
about
think
with the
it's good. We can
playoff.
go move on
Like,
to the next
yeah,
segment. I
let's
think
move on to
we've
the
kind
next
of
segment.
exhausted our opinions at the playoffs. So
The next segment is
top
going to be
15.
the Cover Two Bros official top 15.
For
Not
this
that
week,
anybody cares.
before if you're going to come in this with like no confidence, then like nobody's going to want to watch
No,
us.
I
Or
mean,
like I said, our opinions are fact, but you don't care. Like,
you're right. You're right. No, I mean, this is the first episode, so I mean, we're not expecting anything crazy. I mean, I really hope people watch us. I mean, let me back away from the mic. I think that's too loud. People aren't going to watch with us eating our mics. But I mean, I really hope people watch and enjoy. I mean, this is for us to have fun and to corroborate with the college football fans out there. So
put
I
our
mean,
put our takes on record and see how many of them we can actually go back and be like, hey, we were actually right.
yeah.
Because I'm confident in my ability to judge and predict football. So
We'll just say we don't try not to take ourselves too seriously, and we're doing this for fun. But I mean, we still make no mistake. I mean, we know what we're talking about, for the most part. So, objectively correct opinions
okay, all
coming
right.
at you.
Top 15. Then let's
Anyway,
go.
so we're gonna do like segments throughout these episodes, and this is our pre-Saturday episode. Uh, Pre-snap players is the theme for today. So we're gonna try to do one like every Thursday or Friday, and then one every Sunday to do like the reaction and review of everything.
Mhm.
So be looking out for that. But we're
Talk about how
going to
wrong or right we were.
right, and how things played out, the interesting stuff. But we're gonna have like our own top 15. We're gonna have a top 15 before the weekend, and then a top 15 reactionary, like an adjustment after the
We'll
game.
adjust it based on what we see. So
So this is our week 3 top 15, the Cover Two Bros top 15, which is going to be we haven't picked it yet. Like I think we both have in our minds who we're going to argue for, but we're going to like here and now we're going to kind of like debate and both of us work together to choose who we think should be the top pick. So let me go ahead and bring up that
hopefully I'm was correct about how close we'll probably be in our opinions of our top 15. But
all right, so here we go. We've got the default pages software top 15 layout. I think this will work fine though. We're going to put the logos of the teams that we choose. So, all right. Well, where
we
do
should
we
probably get
start? You want to
into
start
it.
from the bottom up or the top down? What do you think? I think the top
Ooh,
down is going to be the most smooth, really, because we
I think
already
top
kind of
10 be the
know.
most. I think, yeah, I think because I think we're gonna probably have some pretty close agreements on the top. So I think it's pretty obvious who I think number one should be. I am sure
And
you agree.
let me mention this for the people watching that because it's so early in the season, our criteria is not hinging so much on just being undefeated right now, just your win-loss record, because you're either if you're undefeated, you're 2-0.
It,
If you're not,
it's
you're
going to be
one and
everything
one
that
or
it
0 and
should.
2.
It's going to include
What we
who you've
can,
played so far, how you've
right,
looked, what you've
quality of
produced.
opponents, your roster, returning talent, your coaching staff, recruiting.
which
Those are the
which
things we're
would
going to go by. The record
which would
is
be
going to
the
be
big
like
thing between these top two, for me at least. So I guess we'll
right, and
start.
yeah. So this is, based on those criteria and the potential we see of the programs moving forward because it's week 3. So it's like the win-loss records don't mean too much realistically right now. So, all right. So number 1, can anyone guess who we're going to put there?
I think like this is not bias. I have reasoning for it.
I
So
don't think it's biased to say it.
I don't think so. I think most everybody else. I think good. I don't think it's a bad take. Is the thing like it's not like it's a bad take. So
So are
the
we're
Georgia
pick
Bulldogs,
the
the
Georgia
University of Georgia
Bulldogs.
Bulldogs would be number one. I think we can both agree on that. Um,
Yes, I think that's
my
fair.
take there is just because
Yo, what
they
the?
are,
Okay, this is going to be a little wonky.
yeah.
Wait.
I think that works. It's going to be a fat page, but
Yeah, I want them to be able to see it, you know. Maybe I'll just do it like that. It won't let me put it beside the hold on, let me shrink it a little more. We didn't really practice this too much.
there we go.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Oh, you just moved it.
Well, it won't let me put it like right next to it.
You had it
Dude,
right
what
next to
is
it. Maybe.
dude,
Look,
Pages
look,
is
look. It can
trash,
be
bro.
there and
What
just
the
make it real small. I think they can see. I think that's fine. That's what you get for having a MacBook.
shut up. All right, so there we go. I struggled a little bit, but we got it. Number one is Georgia. And I think we're gonna anger a lot of college football fans out there because number one, um, everybody's tired of Georgia and Alabama. It's always Georgia and Alabama,
But
blah, blah, blah. But it's like, come on now. Like Texas beat Michigan in Ann Arbor, and Texas looked. And I'm saying this because I think a lot of people would argue Texas is number one. But it's like,
well, okay. So here's my
let's,
and I
and we'll talk about Michigan later. But it's like we're not going to sit here and act like Michigan, like people didn't know that Michigan just wasn't going to be it this
oh
year.
they lost
What
to
they thought.
everybody, including
You
their
know what
head
I
coach.
mean?
You can't. I mean, they're a
Returning
whole new
production.
team.
Jim Harbaugh's gone. The program's resetting. It's just resetting. That's what it is. Texas is immaculate. They looked like Quinn Ewers looked like that guy out there.
Yeah, he's great. He's a
But
fantastic player.
we have to talk about the returning production on Georgia, the talent on Georgia. Kirby Smart being the best coach in college football right now
That
with
is my
Saban
biggest
gone.
thing. Is
That's
that the
exactly
talent between UGA and Texas can be compared, obviously. And I actually
right.
think that Ewers so far has shown a little bit more
He's
production as a
shown more than
QB than
Carson
Carson
Beck,
Beck.
truthfully, to me. Yeah,
But
but
at
it's
the end of the day,
week
I
three,
think
2 games
Carson
in.
Beck can be as productive as Ewers. And it's also Kirby Smart, two-time national championship coach. He has not been beaten in the past 4 years. He hasn't been beaten by any other coach but Nick Saban,
Nick
the greatest
Saban,
of all time.
right?
So I think Nick Saban as a head coach has proved more. So I think right now it's more likely he's going to do more with the talent that he has than like Sark can do with the talent that he has right now. So I think that is the argument for Georgia, in my opinion, is that, okay, they're both pretty similar in talent. I think it would be an amazing game between the two of them. But I think if you put them up against each other, I think Kirby Smart's the head coach that's going to make the better decisions and have the better outcome. And I think at the end of the day, Georgia probably does have a little bit more depth then. And let's not forget also,
Yeah,
Georgia has one of the best secondaries right now, especially with having the best safety in the country in
I
Malachi
would
Starks.
argue. I would argue
So,
in week three. I think I can even now confidently say Georgia's going to have the best defense in the country this
and
year.
now Jalen Walker, who's kind of like stepped in for Michael Williams when he went down. Jalen Walker looks like a monster out there. He tore Clemson apart,
And
and
that's
then
the
when Michael
thing,
Williams is healthy and they're both out there on the field, then
right?
it's like, now what are you going to do?
But
So
and the freshman effect. It's like Georgia is making statements with like people throwing out there, oh, well, it's a young team, a lot of freshmen. It's like Georgia's producing some phenomenal freshmen. Like these got Malachi Starks in his freshman year. He was that guy. He was already that guy in his freshman year. KJ Bolden, he looks great out there. Like, guys like that. Nate Frazier looks like the
yeah, no,
next
he
Nick
looks
Chubb.
great, and
He
that was
his
a big
running
issue.
style,
Is
everything,
a big question was the running back room, but it looks
because
like
they're
Nate Frazier
thin at running
could
back right now.
really be. Yeah, he had a breakout debut against
And I'll
Clemson,
and
which
I'll
I don't know
mention
what it
that
is
too.
about running backs having crazy games against Clemson, but also a lot of people don't believe in in Georgia's pass game because of they think there's a lack of talent on the edge with receivers. But
Receivers.
Dominic Lovett looks like he's going to be he looks like he's improved a lot, and he looks like
Yes.
he's going to be a weapon. If Beck
And
can just
Dylan
get those
Bell,
deep balls to him, and of course Dylan Bell has
for
always looked
those of
good.
you
He's
who
solid.
ain't, sleeping, for those of you sleeping on Dylan Bell is one of the best out there right now. So, and you
And
just watch.
and then I think Young He's going to be
He's
a great
promising.
addition. He looks promising. So I think Georgia
And then
has
we got
all the
Oscar
talent
Delp
they
and
need.
Lawson Lucky,
Yep. All the talent they need, all
excellent
the
tight
depth they
ends.
need, great offensive line. Just
And
hammered Clemson in that second half. Just
arguably to the point of defending Carson Beck and what his production is going to look like, and the offense as a whole, we could make an argument for Georgia when everybody's healthy, Georgia having the best running back room in the country. Looking at this, Trevor Etienne, Roderick Robinson, Branson Robinson, Nate Frazier, it's like, come on now. Like, we're going to run all over you. But I think we've
but
talked enough about Georgia. Like, we made it,
yeah,
we've
let's
made
go
our
to. I was
point
about to
more
say
or
we'll go to
less.
number 2, which I think we know who number 2 is going to be.
Yes, considering what we were just talking about, we're just going to go
As
ahead and put
the
Texas.
comparison, I think Texas is going to be number 2 for sure. So obviously, Quinn Ewers looks fantastic.
He looks like that
He's
guy
a
right now.
great quarterback. Definitely should be right now. I think he should be front runner for Heisman.
Yeah, he's my favorite for the Heisman right now. He looks crazy. And
And
Sarkisian, Sarkisian is a very offensive minded coach. And I think Texas's offense, while I think Georgia is a better team overall, I think Texas's offense is more dangerous right now just because, and I don't want to go back to Georgia per se, but I'm going to touch home with a lot of Georgia fans who the offensive coordinator for Georgia is currently. That tends to be the 50-50 flip on whether Georgia's going to beat a big opponent in a big game is the decisions made by who in the spot of offensive coordinator, because he's always had a problem play calling in big games, so that's going to be interesting because I think Texas has a better offense right now. But Georgia, I think, has a better defense and better, coaching prospect overall. So this is like, it's almost like 1A, 1B almost. So, but Texas at number 2, they've made their argument. The talent's there. Sarkisian's doing a hell of a job. And yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about Texas?
So for Texas, their offensive line, that's a strong point for them. I noticed in Michigan. Obviously, Michigan's usually got a good D line. I think regardless, even of who they lost, they had I feel terrible because I'm drawing blanks on some of the names, but they had solid defensive players that just were completely just. I think it's Matt Graham. I think was the name of they got like a very good starter on their line who just got completely shut down by Texas's offensive line. And Texas, I don't think Isaiah Bond was all that great for Alabama, but he looks like he's developed a good bit for Texas. He's been a dangerous playmaker for them so far, and actually having a quarterback who can consistently throw to him well, at any distance, I think it has been a big, a factor for Bond to go out and shine. So Texas definitely has a dangerous offense. Jonathan Blue, their backup running back, actually looked very solid against Michigan too. So so I think Michigan or Texas is they're going to be a good team, obviously, and they every right to be at number 2. I think again, what leans the seesaw more towards Georgia is just the coaching staff. So, but mainly just because Kirby Smart, is probably the best coach in the country right now that Saban is gone. So
right. And I think Georgia is the perfect matchup for Texas too, because that defense, that secondary, like it's going to be the best game of the season. Georgia at Texas, that is going to be the best game of the season. It's going to go
Malachi
crazy.
Starks around a lot, so you could get Malachi Starks man to man with Isaiah Bond, and that'd be a fun matchup.
It's going to be crazy.
Now,
and a lot of people out there are gonna, Ohio State. It's like, all right, look, Ohio State, they got an elite roster. Ryan Day is a great coach. They're elite blue blood, but they haven't really played anybody yet. They haven't really truly shown what they're capable of against a quality opponent. Georgia and Texas has, so Ohio State.
Quality is obviously a little. I mean, Michigan is. I think they're still a fine team, Clemson.
I mean, Michigan and
went
Clemson are
and
better than Western
Western
Michigan and
Akron,
Akron, you know. So
so
that's my
like
point.
Western Akron, Kentucky State, like it's
They're all
just
they're all like they're all comparable in talent, but the only ones that have like shown what they can do against a quality opponent, you know, are the top two that we have here.
yeah.
And quality opponents is going to be important moving forward. So that's our 1 and 2. I guess we've made our point with Texas.
Okay.
Number 3.
Which I'll say a disclaimer because obviously bias is probably going to show because we've talked about Georgia so much. This first episode was a little more impromptu and not as much set up as the future episodes will have. So obviously,
this is a lot of improv.
We are Georgia fans, so we inherently just learn more about their team through watching them in the past. But we're gonna in the future make sure that we get all the rosters and stuff down and player names as much as we can. So
I will say because what you were saying, put out there, because we're doing this for fun and we're Georgia fans, so we're going to know more about Georgia's roster and the details, in between the lines more than anything else. But we're going to do our best to cover everybody in a non-biased sense. For example, we're doing a top 15. I felt like, and we both felt like a top 15 was the most, numerically pleasing because you had like top 12 and then 3 like at large sneaking in there. But it's like we weren't going to do like a top 25 because, we go to school. It's like we don't have time to like be like serious pro, 110% informed on everybody commentators. So, we're lazy and we ain't got the time, so we're just going to do a top 15.
Not lazy. I tried for this thing, man. So okay,
I mean, we do come prepared.
Let's go to number 3. I mean, I spent the entire Saturday doing nothing but watching football. I sat down and 12 hours straight. We
were very disappointed in ourselves, so we're trying to be
disappointed in myself. That's how I love it.
we want to be as informed as possible, with the time that we do have. So we want to do it justice, even though this is for fun. We want to do it justice.
So number 3, I know that
this is where it's going to get interesting.
This is the bias, but I'm going to be honest. I still think their roster is solid, and I think their head coach is good. I think you got to put Ohio State at number 3. I know they haven't played anybody and shown much, but Ohio State has proven to at least be a blue blood and, oftentimes can go in the playoff and give trouble to teams in the playoff. And Ryan Day seems like and he's a good coach. And, I think Will Howard's a solid QB. He did great he did pretty solid at Kansas State. And I think if you give him a good team now with Ohio State, I think he can produce a lot more. And of course they picked up Judkins from Ole Miss. So now they got a very high quality running back. So,
I mean, those are all good arguments, and I will put it out there that, like I said, the criteria for this is not going to be like, for me, it's not looking back too much. Like if I look back, it'll mostly just be on the coach, like who the coach is. As far as past performance is concerned, I don't base past performance on anything else except for the coach, being in the conversation, because that's the only thing that really matters when it comes to past performance per se. So I don't hinge too much on like historical arguments for what I feel like, is as objective as possible here and now as it stands top 15. So with that being said, I put Tennessee at 3. I put the University of Tennessee at 3, stepping on toes.
I had Tennessee at 4. So I don't know about 3. I just think that Ohio State has, I think they have better talent overall, especially on defense. Josh Heupel has yet to really, and I know we're talking about past, but I still don't see, it is North Carolina State. They didn't go into that game with the greatest offense in the first place. So
better than Akron.
I mean, but okay, Ohio State shut out Akron, so at least they did what they were supposed to do. So
I think what I saw, I think what I saw with Tennessee, I think it was just watching them play. They kind of looked like Texas and Georgia out on the field when they played North Carolina State. Their offense, super balanced. The play calling's great, balanced offense. They're running all over the place. They're passing all over the place. Ia Lamavea, did I pronounce that right?
I think it's
Ia
like
Malavea, I think is how you say it.
I think it's Amaleava or something like that.
Ia Amaleava.
Yamaleava, yeah, that's what it is.
I was really hoping I would pronounce that right. I didn't want to be one of those people. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, Yamaleava. Well, I mean, it's not
Ia
like it's easy to
Amaleava.
pronounce, but
But
no, he looks great.
Is he a freshman? Or is he a
Yes, I'm pretty
sophomore
sure
now?
he's a freshman.
He's a freshman. That's going to be a
Um,
knock against their.
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Will Howard is, I think he's like,
He's established.
he might be like a fifth
Got
year,
experience.
I think, or something like that.
We know
He's
how that
a
goes. You
redshirt
got another. You
senior or
got us
something.
another.
So Will Howard's way more experienced, and I don't think he's as talented as Nico Yamaleava, but
from
he's
what
more
we can tell
experienced
so
than
far.
freshman. Because you know he's got to play some big games, and can he perform in the big games is the question, because he's freshman. That was sort of my thing, is like, I think Ryan Day is a better head coach than Josh Heupel, and I also think that Will
So far, he's
Howard is
proven
going to
more.
make
Yeah.
less mistakes than Nico Yamaleava. So
All right.
that's why I think Ohio
Look,
State should be at 3,
You've
and then
made
Tennessee at 4.
your argument, bro. Okay, fine. We'll put the Buckeyes at number
Let's
3.
go. I can't stand them, but let's go.
I get so tired. You can't say that. We're supposed to be non-biased.
I'm
I
putting
don't
him
think
at number
anybody likes
3,
Ohio
man, and I
State.
pushed for him over Tennessee. The only people who
Freaking
like
Ohio
Ohio State are
State.
Ohio State fans.
Look, even the logo just is trash. It won't
I don't know.
work.
I dig the logo. I'm gonna be honest.
No, yeah, I like their logo and uniforms are
I also
awesome.
like
But I don't
their
know why
uniforms
this
are
one is
sick.
being so difficult. All the other ones were working
Well, I
just
guess
fine in that
that's
position.
karma for us talking about them the way we were.
Son of a. All right, bro. Look, I might have to just
leave
shrink
them.
them
They're gonna
really
have to
tiny.
be the oddball. I think
Tiny little Ohio
the
State.
viewers know. Hopefully, you're
Okay, it's just
listening
going to
as
have to
well, and
stay
not
that
just
way. But Ohio
watching.
State, we'll put them at number 3 simply because, yeah, they haven't played anybody yet. But like we said, the criteria that we're on in week 3 has a lot to do with their roster, the coach, the potential that they have. So, yeah, okay, you've made your point. But I'm putting Tennessee at number 4, bro. I'm putting them at number 4.
I agree. That's where I have Tennessee at. I think they should definitely be
I'm
number
putting
4,
Tennessee
because
at
I
number
think
4.
out of every team, I think out of every team here in the top 4, Tennessee has a chance to probably have the best offense. I'm just worried about their defense, because that's always kind of been their problem in the past. So
Even saying they have the best offense, though, that's a hot take, bro. With Ewers,
okay,
Texas, and Carson
true.
Beck's
I feel like Texas would
Georgia.
probably be more efficient than Tennessee. Texas and Georgia would be more efficient because I think less mistakes would be made because of the veteran quarterbacks. So, and obviously I think Ewers is Nico looks great. He's super talented, but he's not better than Ewers.
No,
because Ewers is talented and has the experience.
Yeah. So I mean, we're that's where we are right there.
So
I mean,
I think we're about to tick off a lot of a
all
lot
right.
of people and SEC fans with my number 5 because this team's going above.
This is where it's going to get really interesting.
I
from
got
here on out.
Miami at number 5.
Really?
Yeah, I got Miami.
Why is
at
that?
number 5? So because Miami, obviously, I mean it's Florida, not crazy, but their defense looked fantastic in the swamp against against Florida. So, and then Cam Ward, massive pickup. I think Mario Cristobal is a good head coach. He's made mistakes in the past. We won't talk about the Georgia Tech game last season, but he's a good coach. They're also, I think they've been top 5 recruiting, or at least top 10 recruiting in the past 3 years. So they are currently working on a junior top 5 or 6 class now.
Hang on, Chase. The connection was I'm trying to let it catch up. The connection just bombed out just then. All right. So, but it sounds like you're responding to me in real time. So say hey.
Yo, did
All
you?
right, so continue where you were. Sorry, I thought it was
So
about to
you heard
crash.
where I was though about the like recruiting class?
Talking about like recruiting. For my, I mean, it's Miami. Like
The
enough
past few
said
years
for
they've had
recruiting.
like Mario Cristobal has built a recruiting, you know, titan so far the past few years. They went from 15 and then he comes in and he's cranking out top 10 classes. And like I said, they're working right now with a junior to senior, a veteran, like top 5 or 6 class. I think it's fifth or sixth in 21 or
So
22.
returning production is a
So
big thing for
returning
Miami.
production is a big thing for Miami, and they picked up Cam Ward, and he looks like a fantastic quarterback.
A lot
And
of
that was the one
potential
piece they
there.
need because before they had Tyler Van Dyke, who struggled like crazy with them. Cam Ward looks great with them, and I'm not gonna lie, I like Cam Ward more than the other starting quarterbacks that I have on my list, which that's going to piss off a lot of people with the next team I have at 6. But I just really think that he's probably going to be the better quarterback in the end because this one. So, and I'll explain it when I describe it.
Well,
That's why I have Miami at number 5. And
I'll give my argument because I didn't pick a same one for number 5.
okay,
I picked USC for number 5.
wow, okay, I was not expecting
USC.
USC.
I picked USC because the roster looks good. They've got Lincoln Riley, a lot of experience, great head coach, and look, I'm giving them a little bit of a nudge forward. Like I'm kind of basing a lot of this on potential, like perceived potential, because you've got Lincoln Riley at head coach. USC looks really good right now. Their defense is shaped up. They got a talented roster. Um, you know, they beat LSU, and I'm not going to sit here and glaze about LSU, like secondhand glazing, like, oh, they beat LSU, they must be the best team out there, because Brian Kelly's LSU is not really, I don't think it's where people think it is yet, but it's still still a great top tier program, top tier talent, and they beat them in Death Valley too, did they not? USC,
Um,
that was Death Valley that they played them in.
I'm not sure. It might have been a neutral site.
Um, Either way, if it was, they still, I take that as a quality opponent win, and then being undefeated now, which I know we said records weren't going to hold that much weight, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I see a lot of potential in USC. I'm giving love to USC. I don't think enough love is being given to Miami by the AP and everybody else.
I just,
Um, I
I've
had
got
Miami at
USC.
6. I had
I've
Miami at
got
6,
USC
so we had
much
them
lower
like
than you. I've got USC much lower than you. So this is going to be a tough one to talk about because I agree that USC's talented, but LSU's offense is without like. Let's first of all, I want to talk about this because we talk about defense. Their defense was good in the red zone and third down, but they still let Nussmeier throw for over 300 yards on them. I mean, LSU still
but
produced
that
well over
could just be a
400 yards
statement to how
against
good
them.
Nussmeier is, because we know Nussmeier's he's a
No,
stud.
Nussmeier is good,
So
but I think Nussmeier is a great quarterback. But on that topic, I don't think Miller Morris for USC is all that great of a quarterback either. He played well, but he made some mistakes, and he looked kind of uncomfortable in a lot of positions. So I think if you put him up against, and LSU's defense has faltered with Brian Kelly. LSU used to be known for having a stout defense, and I don't think they really have that defense. Brian Kelly doesn't seem like a very
yeah, you got to
defensive-minded head coach. So
Well, if okay, so who would win right now if USC and Miami played?
I think Miami would win I think they could probably win by 10 or more. I think Miami would probably put the hurting on USC. I really do. I have a lot
You
of
think
confidence
so?
in Miami right now. Just because if you can't stop Nussmeier, I don't think you're stopping Cam Ward. So, and because Cam
Okay.
Ward's also a veteran and he looks great. So
And
I
you know
don't think.
what? All right. Well, just because I had them in
Miami's
like
got the better run game than LSU as
right.
well, which is why I think that they'd actually produce in the red zone and on third down. So
Well, because
also,
I had them in
if you look
reverse
at it,
order.
one more thing,
Right.
LSU also had 99 penalty yards against USC. So they also killed themselves
Yeah,
against USC
damn.
too.
And that
So
wholly will make a 7-point difference.
so like that is
Yeah.
a big deal. So they were in a lot of second and long, which just led to the third and long. You know, there were a lot of second and 18, second and 17 that led to third and 9s and all. So they were still picking up 9 yards of play, but you're getting a third and 9, and then now you got to try and convert on a third and 9, which just rush the quarterback, and that's nearly impossible. So that's why I think like
Ohio State's
USC.
still crashing
My
everybody.
thing is that USC. I think Miami, they haven't shown anything crazy yet either, but I think Miami can be higher than, because I think their quarterback has shown an extreme skill. They beat Florida to a pulp in the Swamp, and I think it was like the biggest blowout, like the biggest point differential in the Swamp in years too, in a long time.
Yeah,
So
I mean, Florida's nothing to shake a stick at. You know, they're
I
not.
mean,
A lot of people are saying they're
never.
trash now, and I mean, they're not as far as relative to SEC competition. They're kind of with Vanderbilt right now, more or less. I'd say they're a little better than Vanderbilt still,
They're
but
sneaky. They can be sneaky, I think, is what it
we'll
is.
see
And
moving
but
forward on
Miami didn't let
Vanderbilt.
them be
But
sneaky. Miami went in there and proved a point.
I mean, Florida's still a highly, elite talent. Like as far as the talent on the University of Florida's roster is it's always highly talented elite talent.
I still have questions about USC's defense is the thing. I'm not quite sold on USC yet.
All right. Well,
So
like I said,
on their
since I
defense.
had them in reverse order, I'll go ahead and agree with you and put Miami at 5 because I wanted Miami at 5 or 6 because they're not getting the love that they should right now because other teams that shouldn't be getting the love that they're getting are getting more than they should be getting.
I will agree. I think that I think we'll put I'll move USC up 1 or 2 for me. I don't think they're better. That means you think they're better than Oregon. I don't think they're better than Oregon.
Oregon ain't, bro. I don't know. Oregon,
Okay, I guess
mm,
you know what? I think I'll agree. I think right now USC is the better team. Oregon
that's
has
what I'm
way more
saying. I'm
potential.
going by
Oregon has
right
way more
now.
potential than USC. So I'll agree with you on that. I still think Missouri and Ole Miss are better than USC. I think Alabama, Missouri, and Ole Miss are better. I had Alabama at number 6.
No, I'm not putting Alabama number 6.
Oh, come on. Don't look. I know
And I
this is
mean,
your
it's a
first year head
little.
coach, but I'm going by what we look at now. It's like I think obviously they struggled against USF, but up until the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. But
Well, watching what I've seen out of Alabama and watching how they played USF, I don't know. I can't put them. Yeah, they ran away with it in trash time, but that was because USF was gassed,
I think true
because their
but they
offense
were
couldn't. It
yeah.
was simply because USF's offense was bad
You know what?
that Alabama was able to run
That's a
away
good
with
point
it.
because I also forgot that if you go back and watch that game, there was just a lot of missed opportunities by USF's quarterback. A lot of open
Alabama's
downfield passes
and
for
Alabama's
USF,
their
but they missed
defense
them.
is sus, and Alabama's O line looked like Dookie
Oh
Booty
well,
against
so
USF,
here's the argument: Alabama has almost no depth right now. It looks like
and that
on O
too.
line because what ended up happening is that their starting tackle was out, and so they had to shift on the line. I think Pritchett, or I think that's his name. Their starting tackle was out, and they had to switch up the line, and it was atrocious. They couldn't do anything. Milrow got sacked 3 or 4 times by USF.
Right, that O
And
line
then
was
they
atrocious.
put them back in and they switch it back up, and now they're running away with the game. And it's like the question is, was
So
it
you're
just that
saying it was
USF gassed?
circumstantial. That's why their O line was just happened to kind of
No, no,
fall
no, no,
apart
no.
for a little bit.
They fell apart because
Got a
they
lot
have
of
no depth. Is my
confounding
argument though. So I
variables
think it hurts them.
because
So
USF
also
also just got
part of
gassed
it,
out.
they really hurt themselves with penalties. And my thing is, I think I trust Kalen DeBoer to clean that up. Nick Saban always cleaned it up at the end because Bama last season and a couple past seasons have had games where they've started horribly with penalties, and the next thing you know, 3-4 games down the line, they're playing nearly perfect games. So I think that's a big thing. I trust Kalen DeBoer to clean that up, I think, which is why I had them so high. I think I can put Missouri and maybe even Ole Miss as well above them because they both look like more complete teams. Because if we're going to go by looks, yeah, Alabama looked bad. They looked really bad against USF.
Okay,
Very
so
bad.
which is some of the criterion right now is how they look on film.
But I just can't put
So
USC above Bama because I still think at the end of the day, Bama's defense would probably come out on top over USC's.
I mean, I guess that's fair, I suppose, because there still is presumably a pretty good talent gap there. Um, I don't know, man. I like Kalen DeBoer. I like him. He's a great coach, but I think this idea of a first year head coach taking their team, to the playoff all the way, you know, Nick Saban didn't even do that. Kirby Smart didn't even do that. And both of those had elite talent when they get, well, Nick Saban more or less. Kirby had an elite roster when he came his first year at Georgia, and they went 7-5 in the regular season, won their bowl game. Nick Saban, he didn't, what was Nick Saban? He was 7-5, 8-4 his first year.
Yes, he lost to UL Monroe, but there was a talent gap. Like Alabama is still riding off of top 3 recruiting classes. Georgia and Alabama weren't back in those times. Like,
Well,
yeah,
what I was
Georgia
saying
had
is
a great
Kirby,
roster,
when he came
but
in,
it was like,
Georgia's
yeah, but they
roster
didn't have
was
a
elite.
top 10. I mean, we were probably top 20. It's
I
still a big gap.
suppose.
Like, yeah, we had they had Nick Chubb and Sony Michelle, and
Look, I say the best that DeBoer does is 9-3. That's their best case scenario, in my opinion.
Kirby
9-3.
Smart's biggest issue that year is that I think who was it? Lambert was his starting quarterback that year. That's killer. Like you got to have somebody way better than that if you want to do any good. But okay,
I think
well, I mean,
Alabama right now is no better than
I don't
9-3 come
agree.
the end of the
I just
season.
don't know if I could put USC at
And
number 6.
I mean, I'm
I don't
not.
think
Well, I'm
USC is
not.
better than Missouri or Ole Miss or
I will
Oregon.
put. I'll say I will put Missouri at 6. Then, if this is the
Okay,
direction we're going
I'm
in,
okay
because
with
I think
putting
Missouri
Missouri at
would beat
6.
Alabama right now. I think if Missouri
I
played
agree. I
Alabama, they
think
would beat
Missouri
them.
would beat Alabama.
Um,
If you were to put them right now and they played the same way they did against USF, Missouri would definitely beat them. So I guess we'll go based
because
off of that. I think they'll clean it up.
there's a lot
But
of the returning talent for Missouri. They've got a lot of returning production that's
they
looking
got
good right
Brady
now.
Cook, fantastic quarterback. They
God,
got Luther Burden, one of the best receivers in the country.
I guess Missouri is going to be difficult too. What, bro? Come back. Okay, tiny Missouri.
Okay. All right, nice.
Hopefully the viewers could see that.
So,
Damn it.
God, you're not going to be able to make it any bigger.
Ohio
So.
State, Missouri being a little pain right now, but we got Missouri at number 6 because I just think they would beat anybody else, in the rest of the top 25 right now below them.
I think,
or around them if we're going by AP, because Bama I think would lose to Missouri right now if they played.
what about Ole Miss? Because I had Ole Miss right next to Missouri. So we got to think about because I'm dropping Bama now on my list. So
I think.
Also, I want to say this because everybody's going to be hating, and I'm going to say this right now. I think Cam Ward and Brady Cook are both better quarterbacks than Jalen Milroe, which is another reason why I think that we can put them above Bama.
And we didn't talk about
hype
that
on
much.
Jalen Milroe is insane. He is not
Yeah.
a bad quarterback, but he is not elite.
He is not
shown anything worth being considered an elite Heisman candidate quarterback. Cam Ward, I think, can be a Heisman candidate, and Brady Cook is just a solid pro-style quarterback. So I really don't, but Jalen Milroe has not shown anything. Damn straight he can run. He can run that ball.
Yeah,
like
he can run the ball. Exactly.
He's a quarterback.
He's
not a running back. So, and he still has his mid-range game. It's non-existent so far this season. And we thought he was going to improve on that. Hasn't. Yeah, he's bombed the ball. I mean, he was 7 for 9 for 200. Yeah, because Ryan Williams was open against Western Kentucky's defense. He was wide open. I think Ryan Williams looks like he's going to be a great receiver. But, do you have enough widespread talent on that offense? And
we know what happens when you hinge your entire game plan on one player. We've seen that before.
So,
Buckeyes.
Well, I mean, Alabama too. Jamison Williams.
That too.
So, it's like if they're back in another another Jamison Williams situation with their new receiver here, and he gets injured, then what are you going to do? I think they got other talent, of course, and it's Bama, so they got some depth. But we always talk about like star players. Oh, Georgia's biggest issue is no star players, but they have the depth. They have great players, and they
Georgia
have great players behind those.
Georgia might not have like all of the Heisman level receivers, but they have more elite talent in their roster. They may not have all the star players out of the, like best receiver in the country, yada, yada, but they have more of the top talent of that position in their
Yeah.
roster.
Brock Bowers has been one of the only like top tier elite like could have been Heisman candidate type
Right.
players that they've
And
had on.
I would have voted for Brock Bowers for Heisman last year, but the Heisman is more or less a popularity contest sometimes now because it's all about like, oh, who can be the most showy dual threat quarterback. So I don't even pay much attention to the Heisman race because it's always going to be a dual threat quarterback or a bust a defense open receiver that's going to be the candidates that's going to win the Heisman.
But if we're talking about if we're comparing quarterback,
I think Brock Bowers was the
well
best
to these
player in
top
college
16,
football last year, which is the Heisman, in my opinion, is the best
I think
college football player.
6 of these teams have a better quarterback or potentially better quarterback than Jalen Milroe. Because Jalen Milroe is a veteran at this point, and he shouldn't be looking like he is in these first 2
That's
games.
what I'm saying. Jalen Milroe, his decision making, he's not like Milroe is a hell of an athlete, but yes, as you said, the hype behind Milroe is it doesn't make any sense. It's insane. It's like, oh well, I think it's just because he's the starting QB for Alabama. I think it's just because who he plays for. That's where he's getting the hype from.
I mean, he can throw a deep ball for sure, but you got to hope you can open up those deep balls.
Just not complete.
You're not like Texas. They got a great secondary. Going to be hard to get an open deep ball. Malachi Starks on Georgia. Yeah, deep balls are going to be a pretty damn big problem. So I just don't think, and that's I don't know. I just don't think Alabama's offense is all that insane this year like it has been in the past. So I didn't think it was great last year either, and it got exposed against Michigan.
Yeah, well, so I guess Ole Miss or it's like who's going to win, Ole Miss or Bama? I think my problem with Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin is he has a problem with the big games. So it's like, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss is always like, okay, this is who they are. They're them. When they come to a certain point in the season and when they hit the ranked matchups, the big games when it matters the most, they kind of.
Here's my argument, and I want to put Ole Miss above.
We're not talking about Saban's Alabama right now. We're comparing it to a first-year coach.
Well,
Alabama
here's my
too,
argument.
so.
We're taught this is our rankings for right now and how they played. Ole Miss has not struggled against a lower, a way lower ranked team.
Fair enough.
Alabama ended up covering the spread, but they were a 30-something point favorite going into that game, and it took them until literally 5 minutes in the fourth quarter to start getting a. Ole Miss has covered the spread both games, and they haven't played. Neither team's played really anybody, so I think USF is better than both teams Ole Miss has played, but I don't think it's 1 point game until 5 minutes in the fourth quarter better. So I think.
Some of these logos are just causing a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Ole Miss at 7. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a big indicator too of criteria that I've been using too is like, okay, well, who's struggling? Like not most of the teams out there, the programs haven't played anybody. Like nobody's really played anybody for the most part, which is why records are not really contingency right now for our decisions. But it's like, yeah, Ole Miss has not shown a smidget of struggle, and their offensive capability is it's there. And I think Lane Kiffin's he's a good coach. He's a great coach, top level coach. So it's like I'll give him the edge.
Also, again, I think Jackson Dart is a better quarterback.
Yeah,
I also think that Jackson Dart is a better
Dart
quarterback than Jalen
Milroe.
So.
Jackson Dart, and the returning production on Mississippi. So what do we got at 8?
I think now we can put. I think we got to put Bama at 8 because I have Oregon at 9, and I just Bama's beating Oregon. I think, so because Oregon's also struggled against teams they shouldn't be struggling against.
Okay, I had Oregon at 10, but I think it's just because of where I had USC at. I think now Oregon is going to land at 9 for me too. So.
Wait, actually, you know what we just talked about earlier? Speaking of USC, I think I agreed that I think USC would probably beat Oregon. So maybe we put Bama at 8, USC at 9, Oregon at 10.
So Bama at 8. All right, DeBoer, Milroe, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're still an elite, talented roster. You know.
The logo, they're sucking up to us. That
The
went
Alabama logo works, but the Georgia and all these work too, so we can't be too bad. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe the Matrix is telling us who's not gonna make it in the playoffs. Ohio State, Missouri, and Ole Miss.
Maybe the little boxes,
the little ones.
Okay, all right.
So number 9,
USC at number 9.
USC at number 9.
Argued why we
Yeah.
think.
I'll give USC the love. I'm putting USC because I want USC in the top 10.
USC again. The only team they struggled against was a little bit was LSU. Oregon has struggled against 2 teams that they definitely should not have struggled against.
Right. Well, Boise State, we don't know what kind of force they will be to reckon with this year. Uh-oh.
That's true.
USC
we're giving them the
omen
love.
going on.
Logo,
they're not making it, bro.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I just don't think Boise State is. Oregon has potential. I just don't think they found their identity yet this season. I think that's what it is.
And they got Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, but yeah, the identity thing is important.
It's a big switch up. It's a completely different style. He's a completely different style quarterback than Bo Nix. Bo Nix worked well with their offensive play style. Dylan Gabriel's not looking all the greatest with him right now. One thing I will say is their rushing defense looked terrible against Boise State, but we'll get to that in the predictions. I think we kind of sadly
we also
beat it up.
Junty. Yeah, Junty is an important thing to talk about too, because that is a top tier runner.
Yeah, true.
All right, so because we still got a good bit more to talk about. So
I know I'm trying.
We got 2 hours.
This is how we do. This is football for us, man.
So,
but I think the turnover on the next,
Oregon is. So we're putting Oregon.
I think that's a safe bet to put Oregon at 10. How the mighty have fallen, because they were number 3 in preseason polls and stuff. So, but they look up. Wait a minute though. They're not tiny logo. They might be okay.
Number 11. Maybe so. Oregon might be problem.
I had Clemson at 10, and I think I put Clemson at 11 now, right under
I
Oregon.
had Clemson at 11.
So it ended up working out for you, because I think I agree. Clemson. I think people are hating on Clemson, but
don't sleep on Clemson. Do not sleep on Dabo's Clemson.
I don't ever want to sleep on Dabo. Great coach. I know people crap on the portal, but at the end of the day, I think if you can build up the team that he's got,
the logo.
Yep. If you build up the team he's got, he's still recruiting fine. I know he's not using the transfer portal, but he's escaping what teams like Florida State are suffering from right now. Florida State's suffering from the transfer portal because nobody's going there to play for the team. They're playing for themselves.
Right. And the transfer portal may be the transfer portal may be a topic, maybe the next topic, state of the sport, on the next episode, because I think that's a good thing to get into.
And they talk, and on the subject of Clemson still, with they look bad against Georgia. They didn't look terrible first half. Their offense looked bad the whole game, but defense looked fine first half.
Georgia ran away within second, but it's like, here's the thing. You can't use Clemson getting blown out by Georgia as an argument for why they're not a top 15 team, because it's freaking Georgia. Most of these teams in this top 10 list would get the same handling from Georgia. So
the hate on Clemson, though, is that Clemson
a 1-1 record and your only loss being against the number 1 team in the country. I'm not taking you out the top 15.
First game, too. Georgia
Clemson
returned a lot of production as well. And again, the same coaching staff from last year and all. So Georgia was ready and prepped for this season.
Right.
Clemson, maybe not so much, I think, but they went in and they absolutely
the way they bounced back to App State,
right?
And App State's nothing to shake a stick.
And that's a great bounce back game. They looked great in that bounce back game. Klubnik looked good. Give Klubnik the benefit of the doubt. He's going against what's usually one of consistently the best defenses
probably
in the country.
The best defense in the country this year.
First game of the season. That's not an easy feat. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I still have faith in Clemson. Still recruit fine. Maybe don't use the transfer portal. Klubnik, maybe not the greatest quarterback in the world, but I think he has potential to at least be a good decision maker and an efficient player. So I think
Yeah.
why I think we can put
This is
Clemson at
still
11.
Dabo's Clemson, the
Still
elite
Dabo Clemson.
talented roster, returning production.
So
Dabo Swinney. Don't sleep on him. This is number 11. All right, number 12. Number 12.
I had Oklahoma at number 12.
Oh, no.
Really?
Dude, that is a bad take.
That's a bad
Oklahoma
take,
looks
you think?
like Dookie trash right now. I'm just going to be real with you, dog.
I don't know.
Oklahoma
I'm
has
a
not
Jackson
shown
Arnold
anything but
fan. I'm a
struggle.
Jackson Arnold fan. Their defense looks great, though. Their
No.
offense is strong, but their defense looks great.
No.
Winning off of a safety is a good statement.
And the reason and here's the thing. I looked into it. Houston is 0-2. Houston, who did they lose to their first game?
I mean,
Houston,
yeah, they got clobbered by what's their favorite, but I mean, Oklahoma.
Houston is that is a low quality opponent this year, and Oklahoma just looks bad. They just look bad. I'm gonna be real with you, dog. Oklahoma's not even in my top 15.
Defense, and
they're not even in my top 15. I'm not even gonna lie to you, dog.
I think Jackson Arnold has a lot of potential. I think he's going to be a great team. But you know what? We'll leave him out the top.
I'm not
15
putting Oklahoma.
We'll leave him out the top 15 for you now. But when they end up finishing the season 10-2 and clobbering Tennessee, then you'll see.
You're hinging way too much on Jackson Arnold, and we just haven't seen enough yet. And
I think it's the O-line. I think they get that O-line right, they'll be fine.
That's the thing. We'll have to see. That's one of the hardest things to get shaped up, you know.
Okay, well then, who do you think is number 12?
Right, and like I said, this is right now. This is week 3 right now. Oklahoma looks dookie booty right now.
Well, who do you think is number 12 then?
I put LSU at number 12.
Really?
Yeah.
LSU's not even in my top 15.
I put LSU at 12. Because I'm putting faith in Brian Kelly and the talent that they have, and having Nussmeier. You want to talk about quarterback glazing? Nussmeier is that guy. He's a stud. And LSU's offense is highly capable. Their defense, maybe not so much, but this is like the flip side of Oklahoma. But at the same time, you know, LSU lost to a top 10 worthy USC team. You know, Oklahoma struggled with a, you know, low quality Houston opponent. You know,
okay.
So.
That's fine. I respect that.
I mean, do you have arguments for anyone else at number 12? Because
I had Penn State at number 13, but I think what would put
that's
LSU
where I had Penn State. Yeah. So we'll put LSU at 12 and Penn State at 13.
LSU has the better quarterback. Penn State struggles to find an offensive identity, but they've always got a good. But I don't think Penn State's making it to the playoffs this year. I don't think they deserve to be in the playoffs because Penn State is another one of those
preseason princes.
It just is a team that's always highly rated, and they always struggle in the games that they really shouldn't be struggling in.
That's a terminology you viewers are going to be hearing quite a bit of. It's a little phrase I coined. I call it the preseason princess, which we have a couple of preseason princesses that we like to talk about, and Penn State is a preseason princess, and I'm just going to get that out the way. They are overrated every year in the preseason polls, and they show to be a mid team. And look, I love James Franklin. I think James Franklin is a great coach, but he's just not over that hump.
I wouldn't say mid team, good team, but they're never.
Mid is harsh. They're always a good team,
9-3,
they're not.
You know.
They don't break top 10. They're always top 15, top 20, you know, but they're not top 10 in the country team. Right. They haven't gotten over that hump yet.
There's not much I can say about Penn State other than I think James Franklin's a good enough coach to continue bringing them to a 9-3, 10-2 maybe season if they're, and that they've always got a great defense.
They have
amazing
a shot to
environment.
Be
the whiteout environment is
right.
on another level. But their offensive identity is always hard for them to find. And that's why I just don't think that I think all these other teams above them even Clemson has a better offensive identity to them. So
Penn State is our first at-large projection team right now. They're our first right outside the top 12 at-large. They have a chance to get in if they play their cards right.
At 14, I had Utah at 14.
I didn't.
So
I'm
because
gonna shake it up a bit. I'm gonna throw a wrench in it. I'll let you go ahead because I'm gonna throw a wrench in it.
because I know my argument for why they're not higher, because I actually think Utah is better than Penn State. It's the quarterback situation. Cam Rising, if he can stay healthy, I think maybe they're even a playoff contender. But Cam Rising can never stay healthy. He gets injured every single time.
Right.
The injury he got, they said it's not that serious, and maybe he'll be back in a couple weeks. But who's to say he's not going to get injured again? So until I can see further down the line that they can keep Cam Rising healthy, I don't think they're capable of getting into the playoffs without that. So, but I still think that there's not really any other team I could see that is better than them as a whole. You know, they're always a solid 9-3 team, 10-2 sometimes. They give big game. I mean, they've given it to Ohio State before, you know, and Cam Rising is that dude when he's on the field. So
true, but I don't like to hinge things on one guy too much because
they got a great defense too.
It seems like when Cam Rising's not there, things just kind of fall apart for Utah, and you got to have depth, you know.
Well, yeah, it's the quarterback though. I mean, if Carson Beck went out, Georgia would probably be in a big
but
trouble.
I think that's an argument worthy of having though, because Gunnar Stockton, I believe, could surprise people.
Maybe,
but I'm gonna throw a wrench in it because this is gonna be a big ass wrench I'm throwing into this top 15 that
I already disagree. So
probably nobody's gonna see coming. I'm gonna upset you and others by saying I didn't even have Utah in my top 15. They just haven't shown me anything yet. They just haven't. They haven't played, you know, the opponents that they have played. I'm trying not to go by like the record thing, but it's like, I guess what I'm saying is there are other teams that have played better quality opponents so far than Utah. I didn't have Utah in my top 15. You want to hear my number 14?
And you're usually a Utah stan too.
But you can't be too biased. Like I got to be real to it. I don't think they're top 15 right now. I don't. This is going to be a little who's familiar with Beamer ball?
There's no shot you're putting South Carolina in top 15. That is crazy that you're
I got South Carolina at number 14.
There's no way. I think Kansas State would go in there and
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Kansas State is my number 15, so we can
Utah
argue that.
I 100% believe Utah would beat South Carolina.
I think South Carolina will beat the brakes off of Utah right now.
Dude, Sellers is awful.
Look, did you see what they did to Kentucky? And look, Kentucky.
It's Rock Vandergriff,
but
it's Kentucky.
Look, man, Kentucky and Mark Stoops, that is a good program. That is a quality opponent. South Carolina is 2-0 right now on the momentum. They clobbered Kentucky, dude. They beat Kentucky as bad as Georgia typically beats them. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it was Brock Vandergriff's first SEC start, you know, and he didn't play very well. That's an argument to have. But I just want to give him the love. Remember, people, this is a here and now top 15 as it stands. Who looks the best? Who's got the best quality opponent wins right now?
Okay, okay. Don't use that argument. You can't use that argument because let's not talk about the Old Dominion game. They beat Old Dominion by 10 points.
Okay, and then they went and clobbered Kentucky, a D1 SEC team. Okay, and Utah, who Utah played? Who did they play? Utah's literally played.
I forgot the scores, but nothing's work. Like none of my crap's working.
Utah does not have an argument for top 15 for me. They just don't. They beat Southern Utah 49-0 and beat Baylor 23-12.
Okay. Baylor's better than Old Dominion. Like what?
Okay, but Kentucky's better than Baylor and Southern Utah.
Kentucky better than Baylor? I don't think so. Kentucky looked pitiful. They looked pitiful. They had 3 completions passing amongst 2 quarterbacks. No, 6 total between 2 quarterbacks. That's bad. Kentucky looked terrible.
Okay, well, I'll say this because I still want to find a way.
This because we're talking about now. until it is certain that Cam Rising is out for the season, because Cam Rising still has the potential to be the starting quarterback for Utah the entire year. You can't tell me that with Cam Rising, Utah is losing to South Carolina. You can't tell me that.
It's hard to say. Because I mean, I have faith in South Carolina and Shane Beamer right now. They had a and these are the moments when I went by like recruiting classes too. You know, Utah is nowhere near South Carolina's recruiting class. And I don't know. I mean, yes, Cam Rising is a better quarterback, you know, than what South Carolina is working with. But South Carolina's defense is, you know, even though they played, you know, a struggling Kentucky offense, you know, shaky quarterback position. But also, I mean, their offense can't be that bad because Kentucky's defense is not a joke. So, and they scored the points that they scored. You know what I mean? So, so with Cam Rising, all right, look, I'm gonna give some love for Utah because I do like to stay in Utah. I at least got to mention South Carolina and give them some love because now the trajectory that it's going, they may not end up being this top 15 list. Because I mean, yes, Cam Rising with Utah is the potential, you know, what they have going on, the potential that they have. Here's the question: who would win, Utah or Kansas State right now? Because Kansas State is playing like a well-oiled machine right now. Their stats look great.
I think right now, it's Kansas State.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, they had a close game with, you know, Tulane, but
I don't.
So did Ole Miss last year. You know, Tulane's
Kansas
just
State.
One of those programs.
Because if you look at it, they allowed Tulane not throw, but like put over 400 yards on them. Tulane kind of hurt themselves that game.
So you're saying Cam Rising's Utah, with that hole being mentioned, that Cam Rising's Utah would get the best of them?
Cam Rising Utah, I believe, would beat Kansas State. Yes.
All right. Okay. You know what? I'll give
I'm
Utah
going off
the love.
because until Cam Rising is officially injured and off the roster for the season, it's like there's still, if we put them up, like Cam Rising will be back. So you put them up when Cam Rising's back. I think they're beating Kansas State. So
okay, yeah, I had my little hot take real quick there about South Carolina. And the reason I'm really kind of on South Carolina is because watching that game, knowing what they have right now, recruiting wise, the talent, you know, that returned, Shane Beamer, I think he's kind of getting the handle of things over there. And because SEC bias, I guess, I just wanted to kind of get South Carolina in there, give them the love. So this is the final question then. This is the real question here. Okay, how is it going to work when Utah's logo is bigger than everyone else's, but then it doesn't work? What the hell? All right, Utah gets the big screen. We're giving Utah love. Okay.
Now the question is South Carolina or Kansas State?
Who would win, South Carolina or Kansas State? I don't think Kansas State's offense would. Well, I'll say it this way. I think Kansas State's offense versus South Carolina's defense is a pretty good matchup. I think that's an interesting matchup. But I also think South Carolina would get the best of them on the line of scrimmage.
I don't think South Carolina is going to throw the ball much. Sellers does not look like a very good quarterback, but I think they can run the ball effectively on Kansas State. I think they'd probably win, at the line of scrimmage. Maybe get some short dump-off passes with Sellers. You could probably make something happen. I think they're going to get to Kansas State, going to get the quarterback.
Their D-line looks really good. And remember, like, if anybody knows football, the game is decided at the line of scrimmage. It starts and ends at the line of scrimmage.
So you know what? We're going Beamer ball. Let's put him
in
the top 15.
Beamer ball. Come on, Beamer. Come on, you cocks. Let's see what you got. All right, we giving the love. I'm glad we
coming in with they're hitting the top 15 with that swagger, man.
Yeah, that cock swagger,
as Matt Mitchell would say.
Gamecock, that is. Of course.
I don't know why
All
you
right.
you make it worse specifying.
We got South
All
Carolina
right, we
in
got
the
our top
mix.
15.
All
What a
right.
hideous top 15.
Look, man,
I like it. I
this
think
ain't
there's no top 15 like it.
this ain't your mama's AP top 15. Like we said, this is right now the AP top 15 is based solely on historical performance, recruiting, and if you're 2-0 right now when nobody's played anybody. This is a more objectively based here and now, present tense top 15, and I guarantee you that in the coming weeks, or at least maybe for 1 week coming next week, that it will look closer to this, the top 15. I think our top 15, I think it'll look closer to this in the coming weeks. I really do. We'll see. But this is your official Cover 2 Bros top 15, specially picked between yours truly,
So
the
this will
Cover
be
2
the top
Bros,
15 we go back over Sunday night after we
Mike
have watched,
Hunky and Pick Saban.
after we have watched everybody get absolutely, all of our top 15 teams get absolutely destroyed in their games.
All right. So that's the top 15. So everybody get a good look at that. Just take it in, sniff it,
So
eat
beautiful.
it, taste it.
All
All
right.
right. So now I think that's it for that. Now we're going to move on to the next thing. All right. Why is the
What I think
Okay.
is I'm going in on this segment.
All right, next segment. I think I know where this is going. This is a segment that we're going to do regularly called Turnover on Clowns. Hold on a second.
This is sort of like this is I guess I can explain this one. So turnover on clowns. This is a segment where we're going to kind of take media takes that we've seen. Maybe we won't point any fingers in any direction and actually start like a beef with anybody, because that wouldn't be good. But
okay, I'm sorry. That's enough of that.
We'll take media takes that we think are bad and turn them over. It's explain why we think they're
Turnover
bad.
on clowns.
Turnover on clowns. We talk about why we think they're
yeah.
bad media takes, and why
Focused on
either why they were proven to be bad media takes, or why we think they're bad media takes and will be disproven. So,
and if anybody's
one of
familiar,
mine has already been proven,
right?
Because I knew it would
for decades, because I already know what he's going into. But here's the thing. We all know as college football fans that sports media can be trash sometimes, because apparently they just let anybody be a journalist nowadays. And I mean, something as nonchalant, laissez-faire as sports media is going to suffer a lot, obviously. So that's a whole different conversation to have. But yes, Turnover on Clowns is all about taking our the worst media takes we can find from across the sports world. Whether it be broad or specific. We're going to try to not be specific because we don't want to like antagonize anybody, but if somebody says something really crazy, we're going to call them out. But anyway, all right, I'm going to let my co-host Pick Saban over there. He's going to take it.
Okay.
He's got
I'm going right in. My take on this is all media, because I think this is ridiculous and I'm sick and tired of it. I don't know how many times we have to watch Notre Dame get put in the top 5 or top 10 and get absolutely clapped out of it. I don't understand why this is even a thing. I get it. We talk about recruiting classes. We talk about they got Marcus Freeman. We talk about I can tell you right now, I didn't think their recruiting class was all that special. I didn't think they had the setup ready for the team anyways, and they never do. They had an awful schedule, so it's not like they were going to be able to play good enough teams to truly build. Their biggest game this season was USC. They don't even play Ohio State this season, which is usually one of their biggest rivals that they play. And they don't play a conference game, so they're never going to make the top 4 anyways.
They don't play conference competition, period.
They don't play conference competition. They can just go in there and play Northern Illinois. But we see how that ended up. So I actually had a good feeling going into that game that Northern Illinois was going to put it to Notre Dame, even if it was in South Bend, because Marcus Freeman himself has shown that he struggles with competition. He struggles even with some lower competition, and he's a fairly new coach, which is the biggest thing. Second year ever of him being a head coach, and we're putting Notre Dame at top 5. When they've never been able to finish in the top 5. I think they finished one time, right, in the playoffs or something like that, or maybe they played Clemson like at the end of the year, and they got beat like 38-7. Never. They always get knocked out somehow. If they go undefeated, in regular season, they're getting beat by 40 points in the playoffs for the national championship. It never fails because they play their biggest game is playing a top 15 team that, is Penn State or something, and maybe they win by a field goal. I'll never understand putting Notre Dame in the top 10. And I know people talk about like you can't go based off the past, but
it seems like that's all they're basing it on.
It's like that's kind of what it is. Like it seems like you're basing it on the past.
It's
like,
boomer. It's boomers glazing Notre Dame.
So
it's boomer. It's
I know that they're a prestigious program.
Right?
They've been prestigious in the past,
but it is what it is. They're just not it right
lately.
now. For the last,
I just think that
20,
until Notre
30
Dame
years.
Gets a fair schedule and their strength of schedule isn't literally in the below the top 70 every season, I don't think they deserve to have the respect to be put up in the top 10. If you're going to sit there and act like and everybody's going to put them so high, it's that write-in. It's like, why? I also don't think it's fair. All these media people say, oh, Notre Dame was a write-in for the playoffs. First of all, no, they weren't. Second of all, what does it matter? Like write-in, that's not how we determine this. They can go 12-0, but I'm putting an 11-1 Oregon, whose only loss is 3-point to Ohio State or something.
I mean,
over a 12-0 Notre Dame.
I'm putting a 10-2 DeBoer's Alabama
exactly
over a 12-0 Notre Dame.
Like, you're not playing anybody. You're just not. You're not proving anything.
And I was going to interject just what you said is that there's too much, especially in sports media. This is like a subtopic to rag on in sports media is when we talk about playoffs and things like that. Oh, the write-ins, they got the path to the playoff. Like, yeah, they got an easy schedule. Their schedule's really easy, yada, yada, yada. It'll be easy for them to go undefeated and get in the playoff. And it's like, it's not just about going undefeated. That does not by default. And even the committee has had to reiterate this multiple times, Florida State, the going undefeated does not by default make you a playoff contender because you got to play competition. A team, what makes you think you deserve to be in the playoffs? Think about what is definitive of a playoff. Think about what that means. What makes you think you deserve to be there if you didn't play anybody all year long? What makes you think you deserve to be there over a 1-loss, 2-loss team, maybe in a wild case, even a 3-loss team with a schedule that like Georgia and Texas has? What makes you think you deserve to be there more than a team that actually played quality opponents in competition and proved like, okay, you can't really prove that you're playoff worthy by definition if you don't play competition, if you don't play anybody. So let's get this whole, right in because of the path to the playoff. Let's get this whole schedule crap. Like, they got an easy schedule, so they're in. Let's get that mindset out of here. That's stupid because we see how that's happened multiple times. Like, how many times do we have to see it play out? You know what I mean? It's like who you play matters more than that win-loss record at the end of the day. Like, obviously there's a threshold there. Like, you got to draw a line in the sand at like 3 losses or more, but
yeah, I mean, and not to mention, like, I get it. Like, they beat they beat Texas A&M, right? But I also think Texas A&M is consistently an overhyped program now.
They are. And now they just look bad.
I don't know how they can go they went like 8-4, 7-5 and lost a lot of really bad games last season. And then all of a sudden now we're thinking like, I understand that last year is different than this year, but the previous years always have a bearing on the next year. They just do in some way.
It's the recruiting.
It's the recruiting.
They take the recruiting and the brand. It's the brand too.
And my thing is like A&M, it's the brand and they have good recruiting, but obviously nothing has been done with that recruiting. So that's sort of my argument for Notre Dame is like everybody rates them so high because of the talent they have. But, it's a new year. It's like, yeah, but it's still same coach this year and nothing's being done with this talent. Nothing has ever been done with the talent at Notre Dame.
And even if you did do something with the talent, there's only so far you can go with recruiting as far as the year of, because these are all brand new fresh meat student athletes, like they're freshmen. You have guys like Malachi Starks and Nate Frazier, guys like that, but that is an exception. And the exception doesn't make the rule. First year, like, you cannot hinge on a recruiting class when that recruiting class, they're all freshmen coming into that year. That program is not going to be a team of all top recruited freshmen and win the Natty. That's not how it works.
Not to mention that, like, they also picked up Riley Leonard as their starting quarterback. okay, no, I don't know who thought Riley Leonard was going to go in there and be an amazing quarterback. He's not. He's barely above average. He's mainly just because he's not. He's decent at being dual threat. But
I think a combination, and I think a combination of to go back to what I was saying. I think if you combine returning production, if you combine all the factors of returning production, who's going to be there again, who's vetted, plus coaching staff, plus the recruiting class, then we can talk about the effects of the recruiting class because of depth, leadership on the team, and returning production. Returning production is more important than anything. That is the most important. Like if we're actually going to give preseason rankings the time of day, coaching staff and returning production are the most important factors in preseason rankings. Recruiting classes mean hardly anything because even if they do something with the talent, they're all freshmen. It's like you're not going to win the net.
It's over year recruiting class. Like if you have the past 4 years, you've consistently had the second or third recruiting class. Like it's a guarantee you're probably going to be a good.
So right, okay, yeah. If you kind of go by that,
you have a third year recruiting class or third ranked recruiting class that's now juniors and seniors who are going to kill, destroy the game. But
yeah, like if you go year over year with it, yes, that's valid.
I guess Notre Dame has always had decent recruiting. But that's kind of my point, is that they've just never had a coaching staff to do anything with it. And I think Notre Dame, I know this sounds harsh, but because they've proven everybody who dislikes them right, I think they got to prove people wrong before they can be put up where they need, where like in like top. And they can't prove me wrong, my opinion of them wrong, until they go in the playoff and start winning games. Because they can go 11-1 right now, I mean, I guess maybe if you beat USC, it's like, okay, maybe you are something, but your best game, your hardest game before USC is Louisville, and they come to you.
And that's assuming that Louisville and both them and USC by that point in the season are still going to be what people are saying.
I mean, it's like, like you play Purdue.
There's a lot
you play
of
Louisville. You play Georgia Tech. You play Stanford. Like,
speaking of that,
what kind of schedule is that?
And I think we made our point. We're running out of time.
I'm sorry.
So we got to do our picks and predictions for the games coming up. So that's our turnover on clowns segment. Hating on Notre Dame.
Yeah,
that's
hating on Notre
Dame. Preseason princess, Notre Dame.
Okay.
So now we're moving into our last segment of our like pre-snap episodes. And this has been a long episode, and hopefully we're entertaining and talking good enough that people will be willing to watch the whole thing through. If they don't, then they're just idiots. But
okay, let's start attacking the audience now.
But I mean, this is our first episode, so apologies for it being so long. We plan on being more streamlined with future episodes. We did this like we did our research, but this was like completely unscripted, like coming into it, which I think is a better way to do it anyway. But we're going to learn from this on like how to be more straightforward and streamlined. And of course, the reactions and reviews Sundays is going to be pretty straightforward because that's pretty much all you're going to do, that and adjusting your rankings. But anyway,
I guess I could shorten it up to the list of big games. Then
the next segment, our last segment of these pre-snap episodes, is the picks and predictions for the upcoming games, notable games, top 25, games. And because of our limited time, I guess we'll just start with the biggest games first. What we think are the biggest games. So what is your take on the game of the week? What do you think is the biggest game this week?
I think the biggest game this week, I actually think that the biggest game this week is probably Oregon at Oregon State.
You think so?
I think it's a big game because I think it has a lot of implications. I know it's not a conference game, but this is kind of Oregon's necessary game to try and prove that there's something worth something.
Oregon State can really hurt them too.
And I think it'll be a good game. I really do. Like the line is 16. I don't think Oregon's covering the spread. I think Oregon State will cover. I think it'll probably be a 10 to maybe 10 to 13 point game, maybe. If Oregon can kick it into, even if Oregon kicks it into a better gear than usual, I still think that Oregon State can keep it close. So, the biggest reason is because Oregon State is averaging like 300 rushing yards per game, and Boise State just ran for over 200. I know they got Jean T, but you're still letting them run 220 yards on you. now that's the last thing you wanted to do going into a team who's like top 5, I think, in rushing offense. So
I mean, I'm going to pick Oregon in this one, because I think, and upset alert. This might be an upset alert game.
I agree.
Which we need to. Is something we're going to do too. Is like upset alerts, but we kind of missed. This. I guess it's not really going to go that way for this one in particular. But I think Oregon State is going to give them trouble. It's a really good rivalry game, and this is
rivalry.
It's important for
Oregon
Oregon.
State.
It's important. So, are you going with Oregon?
Yeah, I'm going with Oregon, but I don't think they're going to cover.
On. So Oregon, what do you think they're going to win by?
I think.
You think the score is going to be? Let's do the score.
Oh, the score.
Yeah.
For Oregon and Oregon State, I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go 33-24.
33-24. You think it's going to be that high scoring?
Yeah, I think it'll be that high scoring. That's not super high scoring though. I think Oregon can put 33 on Oregon State. I just think that Oregon State can put 24 on. So,
okay. So that's I'm using a little fancy banner feature here to do that. That's pretty cool. So this is our pick for the Oregon game, and I let pick Saban over there pick the score 33-24 Oregon. A lot of implications here for Oregon particularly. Okay. So now what's the next game? We want to talk about Arizona and Kansas State.
Yeah, let's
what we got going on over there.
You think you want me to take the lead on this one as well?
I mean, I'll talk about this one. I think we can go back and forth. I've been looking into some of these things. Arizona, looking back, and I don't really know what their returning production is looking like, truthfully. They haven't really shown anything special so far. I'm surprised their rank. I mean, maybe the AP sees something in their returning production and talent, their roster, coaching, that makes them put them there.
Mm-hmm.
But Kansas State, I think, but not too many teams have shown too much right now, but I think Kansas State is more capable than Arizona State. And Kansas State is, top 15 for us. I think Kansas State beats Arizona. And Arizona's playing at Kansas State too.
You think so you think I think Kansas State's definitely the better team. The thing is that Kansas State's strength is Arizona's weakness. Arizona's weakness is their rushing defense right now. They're not doing well. It's like 150 yards a game that they're allowing. Kansas State's rushing for 250 yards a game. I know it's only 2 games, but still, it's like going based off of what we have so far in the small pool. I think I agree. I think Kansas State. It's only a 7-point line, so I think Kansas State wins and covers. You probably agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. Sorry, I was trying to look at a metric here to help me get a handle on it, because I was trying to double check Arizona. It seems that Arizona, they can make a little shake on offense, and Kansas State, their defense is decent enough.
It was a little. You had some cracks in the dam against Tulane for sure, but Tulane's always kind of, for like a lower ranked team, has always kind of been an offensive juggernaut in their respective, circle. So
at Kansas State, I'm saying Kansas State wins it. I'm gonna call it. I say they win it. I'm going to take they win 28 to 20.
28 to 20. Okay, so you think they're covering it by 1 point. Okay.
Yep, I'm taking KSU
I like that score
over Arizona 28 to 20. All right.
I like that score.
So now what's next up? We don't have a lot of time. We're going to have to do just the big important games.
Well, big important. I think LSU at South Carolina,
of course,
is a big game. Of course, first it's conference play. It's not first. I think it's LSU's first conference game. It's obviously South Carolina's second because they just got off a pummeling of.
We'll say a lot of conference implications here.
A lot of conference implications here because this is kind of because South Carolina can get a pretty big head up on the conference. There'll be a 2-conference. They'll stay the leader if they can beat LSU. So
South Carolina, but Beamer ball getting them cocks. All right,
I think
make
this
your
is
decision
upset
and make
alert.
your
I think
make your
this is an
points.
upset alert game because LSU's favored by a touchdown. I think South Carolina can surprisingly could beat it. I think it should be on upset alert. I don't know. I think it's only 7-point line, so I think LSU could cover by exactly the touchdown. I don't think they're probably going to win by any more than that. I think South Carolina can get to Nussmeier and make it a tough game for him, but I just don't have a lot of faith in South Carolina's offense or Sellers, their quarterback.
LSU's defense being kind of mid
but
right now
LSU's
too,
defense
so it's
hasn't
like
looked the best.
it might
so
just be
maybe
mid
they
ball
have some
between the
freedom.
two.
So it might be mid ball. So I think I'm going to go. I'm still going to take. I don't know.
You got to hurry up. We got to cover a couple more games.
I'm going to take South Carolina to win. I'm going to take South Carolina to win.
What's the score?
Because it's in Columbia. I think they're going to win.
That's a tough road.
I think they win.
Game.
I think they win like, let's say 23-17. I think that's the final score,
23-17. Pick Saban says LSU over or South Carolina over LSU 23-17.
I think LSU is going to struggle to put up points on South Carolina because I think they're going to give some trouble to
all right.
Nussmeier. I think they
while we're talking about the sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Go ahead. Yeah, I know.
While we're talking about the SEC, what about good old UGA at Kentucky?
Okay, at Kentucky, they're in Lexington. Okay, I guess I took the lead on last one. You take the lead on this one.
All right. Georgia is number 1 in the country right now. For good reason. Georgia's offense with Bobo at the helm, kind of, hit or miss, 50-50 sometimes, especially in big games, which this is a big game. And Kirby Smart's told y'all, don't let it fool you. This is a big game. They might have got handled by South Carolina, but there's a lot of lessons learned for Kentucky moving into this. But Georgia has the best defense in the country, in my opinion. And I think one of the most capable best offenses in the country. And look, man, I think this year Georgia's just going to run them. I think it's going to be Georgia. I think it's going to be. I'll take Georgia. I'll take 35 to 14.
35 to 14.
35 to 14, and I'm being generous.
I think that's covering. No,
I'm being generous.
That's actually not even covering. That you don't think they're going to cover?
What was the spread?
It's a 24 point. It's like 24.5. It's a huge spread. I think they cover. I'm thinking like 38-14.
Tell you what. We'll say 35 to 10.
I think
Kentucky's
I was
going
to
say
I don't think they're putting.
They might get a lucky.
I don't even think they're putting up a touchdown. I personally think that Kentucky's probably putting up 6.
So 35-10. Just give them.
They're only putting up 6 against South Carolina. They're only putting up. There's no way they're putting more than 6 again. And I know it's in Lexington, and we've struggled. Georgia has struggled with Lexington in the past.
All right. Get two. I want to get at least 2 more games out the way. We're running out of time. So Bama versus Wisconsin.
Georgia runs Kentucky. So
Bama at Wisconsin. Go ahead.
16. So this one is a 16-point spread. Bama's favored by 16. I'm going to be honest. I know Bama struggled against USF, but I think that's the fuel. Bama has a statement to make this game. Wisconsin's environment has never been one to be super excited about. Right. And also they got Tyler Van Dyke. So
what are you taking Bama with? What's the score?
They're definitely going to cover. I'm going to go probably – I think Wisconsin usually has okay defense, so I don't think Bama's breaking 40. I think I'm going to go like 30. I'm going to go 38. I'm going to go 38-13 on this one.
38-13.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think Wisconsin's putting up much on Bama
Pick
at all.
Saban's got Bama winning 38-13 against Wisconsin. Yeah.
All right. What's the next game we want to?
All right. I still thinking a little bit of an upset alert because you never know.
Really? Okay.
Playing Wisconsin, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think it either goes down to, if it's upset alert, I think it goes down to like a 14-13 point game. Like I'm talking like they both are within like a 20 point over under. Like I don't
So
think
if we got one more game to cover, which one do you think we should talk about?
either Boston College at Missouri or Tulane at Oklahoma.
I say Boston College at Missouri is a little more interesting.
Okay.
Okay. So they are at Missouri. All right. So
Yes.
I think Boston College, they look good right now. They slipped into the rankings early on. I think Missouri is just one of the top teams in the country right now, though. I think Missouri, and this being at Como, I think Missouri is gonna run
I don't
Boston
think Boston
College. I really
College is going
do.
to stop Brady Cook and Luther Burden.
Uh,
There's no way.
I'm saying Missouri wins it. I'll take them 47-17.
Okay.
Damn, we're out of time, bro. This has been Cover Two Bros on the Ash Pre-Snap.
Wait, is it going to cut
Wait.
us off or something?
We're really it's still going.
Well, what's your score? Go ahead and give a score prediction for
It's
47-17. Okay.
47-17. I've got Missouri winning Boston College, and maybe I'm being gracious on the score Boston College is going to put up.
I think you're being gracious for their offense. I think Missouri's got a really good defense. So I think
I'm
thinking more so along the lines probably 45 to like 10, 45 to like 9. Maybe they get a few field goals or something.
They definitely do. And the limit, from what I understand for the recording, was like 2 hours. But I mean, it's still recording, so I don't know how it's going to handle. So we'll just I guess we'll just keep going with maybe one or two more games we wanted to talk about.
I think we should go ahead, and because we've talked about all the games that I want to talk about other than Tulane and Oklahoma, but that's just because I think. But
well, let's just do this since we were on that train earlier. Notre Dame at Purdue. Upset alert. Choo choo.
Hey, man, Ohio State has been upset big time at Purdue before.
Purdue is a upstate city. They are upset a lot of the times. And Notre Dame is we've had our conversation about Notre Dame, and we've talked about the games we kind of wanted to cover, but I only wanted to interject this one because it's an upset alert for me. I'm taking Purdue in this one. They're at Purdue. Purdue is upset you. Notre Dame is the preseason princess. And you know what? A lot of people would say you're crazy for thinking that Notre Dame is going to get upset 2 times in a row. That's lessons learned. They're not going to let that. They're going to be looking for that. I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't, because you've still got a head coach that's, more or less brand new to what's going on. Notre Dame, they just don't really know their identity, I don't think. And Purdue, maybe not one of the better, programs in D1 per se, but they always come with it against elite opponents.
Notre Dame's only a 10-point favorite too. So,
and if we're looking at the spread, that's upset alert right there. Really, it's potential. So, and any Notre Dame fans out there that we're upsetting, sorry, it is what it is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of
you can blame your team for that one.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you are self-aware as well, though, that it's the same story every year for the past 20 years. So it's like, Notre Dame, they got a lot to prove in this game, more or less to bounce back. But I think they beat them. I think Purdue beats them at home.
What's your score prediction then?
I think Purdue wins it. I think it's going to be I'm going to take Purdue. Matter of fact, I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive battle. I'm going to take Purdue winning this. I'm going to say I take Purdue. Damn, this is kind of hard to work out. You know what? I'll take Purdue 20-17 over Notre Dame.
I was thinking Notre Dame would get the dub 2017, but
I'm taking Purdue 2017 over Notre Dame.
I know I was really crapping on Notre Dame. I think they pull this one out. I still think it's going to be a tough game for them no matter what. Very tough, but I think they pull this one out.
Okay. I mean, it's fair enough. I think I'm just adding the upset alert just to keep it interesting, but I mean, I think it's a legitimate possibility.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, they just got beat by Northern Illinois at South Bend, so there's a very high chance that
yeah.
they get upset by Purdue at Purdue. So,
Well, I mean, assuming that even though we've passed what I thought was the limit that it's still recording, I guess, we've covered everything we wanted to cover. So I guess, if you guys are out there, this is still, I mean, it's not live. I don't know why I say that. We'll find out after the fact.
if you guys
Anyway,
somehow made it to this portion of the
yeah,
2
if you
hour
somehow
video,
made it
then
all the way to this
I
point,
appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
many
This
thanks,
is
many thanks.
many thanks. Yeah,
And we hope you'll come back
about
for more. We
football.
promise we'll be more concise and straightforward. Like I said, this is just our first try, just winging it, more
Just
or
completely
less,
wing it,
off the
so
hip,
done
not
winged it.
scripted. So, but we're gonna try. We want to try and keep it no more than an hour. Moving forward. So, like, and hopefully something closer to like 45 minutes. To an
Yeah.
hour, somewhere in between there. But
So,
but hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of the
on
On the
the
Hash,
podcast.
the pre-snap episode, the first episode ever of On the Hash from the Cover Two Bros. Today being Mike Hunky, because I'm a man, I'm 40, and Pick Saban, your
Because I'm the
co-hosts.
greatest picker of all time, whether it be nose picking, game picking, who knows,
Hell yeah, dude. So this is you heard it here. Maybe not first, but you heard it here, folks, from Cover Two Bros on the Hash. Hope you enjoyed. Be looking out for the next episode, which will be our reaction and reviews to this week's week 3 results. So all right. Catch everybody next time. Have a good Thursday, everyone. Thursday sucks, but enjoy your Thursdays.
That's it. See you.
Beamer ball.